Centuries ago, St. Aidan led 12 monks across the sands to Holy Island. From there to start the task of bringing Christianity to pagan Northumbria. Ever since, this semi-island off the northeast coast of England has been a place of pilgrimage. From all over the Christian world they have come, and still come to follow the line of staves that mark at low tide the ancient pilgrim's way to a cradle of Christianity. A few miles further south, and centuries earlier, another god was worshipped, the sun god, Mithras. His worshippers, the Roman soldiers, who manned the great wall that spanned the north of Roman-occupied Britain. Hadrian's Wall. From AD 122, it took the Romans 5 years to build the wall from coast to coast. The reasons advanced for this massive effort are various, and Hadrian did not record his own. This is the ruin of a mile castle, built methodically every Roman mile along the wall to billet its active service troops. At longer intervals, the great forts were built with their granaries and spacious barrack rooms. About 18 centuries ago, they looked like this. Chester's is one of the most completed excavated forts. Read the story in its stones, and you will know how Roman expeditionary forces lived in this hostile outpost of their empire, and what sophisticated amenities they enjoyed. This spacious stone-built bathhouse with running hot and cold. But long before the Romans fought their way up north, this was an area of conflict. All men were enemies. And where there are enemies, there are defenses. This gentle mound was once a fortified camp built by the ancient Britons, and looked, they believed, like this. After the Romans, conflict continued. From across the North Sea came Norsemen and Saxons, and Danish Vikings, all to kill and burn and plunder, some to settle and integrate. From across the Scottish border came the cattle marauders, and so the need for peel towers, the ground floor to contain the threatened herd, the upper floor for the family, and the source of boiling oil. And for careless marauders, hanging, drawing, and quartering from the gibbet on the hill. With warfare its most popular pastime, Northumbria grew rich in castles, more than any other part of Britain. Some great, gaunt ruins, others preserved or restored for peaceful purposes, to make homes and to welcome visitors. Alnwick Castle, since 1309, home of the Percy family, Dukes of Northumberland. It is gentle country like this that once raged to the battles of the north, so frequently involving the Percys of England and their perennial, almost private enemies, the Douglases of Scotland. Nothing of strife survives but memorials. The Percy Cross at Hedgeley Moor. At Otterburn, another Percy Cross, sited paradoxically where a Douglas died, having won his battle. Homeldon Hill, this one a Percy victory over the invading men of Douglas. This cross, and the most poignant lament in Scottish music. the flowers of the forest, commemorate the Battle of Flodden Field. Here in 1513, the invading army of King James IV of Scotland was outmaneuvered by the English, and all the flowers of Scotland died. It was by allowing the English artillery to cross this Twisel Bridge over the River Twill, either through chivalry or stupidity, that the Scottish king ensured the doom of his cause, his own death, and the destruction of his army. But it was 9 centuries earlier that the battle was fought that brought the greatest good. Here at Heavenfield, the Christian King Oswald, albeit leading pagan troops, defeated the heathen Prince Cadwaladr of Wales, and thus headed Northumbria towards the Christian faith. Later he was canonized, and nearby St. Oswald's Church was built in memory of his crusade to convert his people. First he sent to Iona for the Celtic priest Aidan, also to be a saint, who set up his mission in 634 AD on Holy Island, and from there evangelized all Northumbria. Today, where saints and monks and pilgrims walk the wet sand, you can drive to Holy Island on a modern causeway. For it is only for the few daily hours of high tide that it is a true island. The first priory on the island was plundered and burnt by the Danish Vikings in 793, and the ruins that now remain are Norman and beautiful. Here, the legendary lecherous monk still ogles the virtuous nun. Appropriately, he was buried, his feet in the latrines, his head in the brewhouse, where once the mead was brewed from herbs and honey to warm the stomachs of the monks. And mead is still brewed on Holy Island today. Try some. The true mead, brewed with rather more control and science than the monks would have used. Holy Island Castle was built in the 16th century to guard the harbour against the Scots, who in fact never troubled to attack it, which was perhaps just as well, since its garrison was little more than 20 men. Halfway back across the causeway, a refuge is offered for those who have misjudged the rapid-flowing tide. St. Cuthbert, a successor to St. Aidan as Bishop of the Holy Island, spent many years of lonely meditation on the barren Farne Islands off the coast from Bamborough. Frowned over by the apparatus of modern industry, the 7th century church of St. Peter's at Monk Wearmouth, nearby the ruins of its monastery, the workplace of the Venerable Bede. When he died in 735, he just completed his 79th book, the first English translation of the Bible. Though the past is all around you in Northumbria, the present is characteristically open and vigorous, and the amenities are there for most contemporary pleasure. Along the coast, there's a string of little ancient harbors. From these sail the local cobles and the inshore trawlers manned today by the descendants of generations of tough Northumbrian fishermen. Against a background of tradition, the thrust of new development. Here, the Durham motorway. The road tunnel under the River Tyne, this new swift link between the twin counties of Northumbria. and high above the Tyne, the famous high-level road bridge at Newcastle. Newcastle's new civic centre, steepled by its gilded carillon. With air links all over Europe, Newcastle's newly built airport. The hospitality of the North Coast starts with its old pubs and country hotels, full of the warmth and zesty character of the Northumbrian people. But these days, there are also new hotels where comfort and service match up to the highest international standards. And so does the food and wine. In the entertainment explosion that's taken place in the North in recent years, the Northumbrians have become very knowledgeable and sophisticated diners out, and the visitors benefit. After dark, the vigour of the North is cheerfully evident in the most alive and unique nightlife in all Britain. Nightlife for everyone, that everyone can afford. Outside, the dawn air is North Sea fresh. The beauty is cool. And you drive on where traffic runs sparsely, and the country opens out everywhere and rolls and climbs in unfamiliar peacefulness, where for 1600 years there was only battle and bloodshed. It's so quiet there now. The Picts and the Scots, the Romans, the Normans and the border raiders are gone, or have evolved into today's Northumbrians, and their swords are rusted into dust that's blown away. Go south, and you meet more history, American history. For this is Washington Old Hall in County Durham. Here in Norman times lived the ancestors of George Washington, first President of the United States. In Durham City itself, eyes look upwards to the dominating castle and its nearby cathedral. In the new County Hall, a mural tells of the building of it, begun in 1093 by workmen from Normandy using stone from the riverbank below. On the main door, the sanctuary knocker. Once they had laid hands on it, fugitives from the law could claim protection. Within the cathedral lie the remains of Northumbria's three greatest native ecclesiastical figures, all from the 7th and 8th centuries AD. St. Cuthbert, from Holy Island, shares his tomb with a few bones that remain of the fighting king who became a saint, St. Oswald. At the other extreme of the building lies the body of monk and writer, the Venerable Bede, without whose indefatigable work we would know very little about the early cultures and history of this land.